pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. At this time, Assistant City Manager Dave, could you please call the roll? Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
She's on Zoom.
Yeah, here.
It's not. Councilman Licker. Councilman Williams. Here.
A quorum is present. At this time, we will open up with our public comments. We ask that you will state your name, the street you live on, and be courteous to the clock when it says 3 minutes. Assistant City Manager, who is our first person for public comments?
First public comment is Jerry.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
I'm Jerry Knoll. I live on Deer Ridge Drive here in Ferguson. And proud of which I am part is planning a series of community forums that will serve as a follow-up to the Oak Park conference that we hosted at Flow Valley Community College back in October. During that conference, the focus was on 6 different areas of interest to Ferguson residents: housing and neighborhoods, economic development, community safety, education and youth empowerment, social connectedness, and giving voice through the arts. During that Oak Park conference, residents and experts in each area of interest discussed and shared ideas in breakout sessions. Some members of council attended. The conference demonstrated a few things: that no one person or group has all of the good ideas, that we can all learn much by listening to the ideas that others have, and that the best solutions come from hearing a diversity of thought on an issue. Because so many good ideas were generated, worthy of follow-up and further discussion, we wanted to follow up with a series of forums. So our plan is to host a series of 6 forums, one for each area of interest over the next 6 months or so. And with the upcoming city council election in April, we realized there was an opportunity during those forums to invite the candidates for city council so they could share their views on the topics. Because of that, we've extended an invitation to the 6 city council candidates to attend. Each candidate will be able to give their views on the topic if they wish, but these will primarily be community forums, not candidate debates. The majority of time will be devoted to all community members, including candidates, to discuss and share ideas, and hopefully as a community generate positive momentum to carry our community forward. The upcoming forums will all be on Thursdays at the library, Thursday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Ferguson Public Library. They'll also be available on Zoom. The dates are March 6th. We'll talk about housing and neighborhoods. March 20th, which will be community safety, and April 3rd, which will be economic development. Watch for more info at your favorite places, wherever they might be, to get community news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd first like to say happy Black History Month. Black lives still matter. I would like to talk about the last special meeting we had. I appreciate us having that meeting. However, we did not have enough time to get to Bill 7304. So I'm hoping that you'll give me a little grace with this time. What I would like to do is go back to 7302 in that in the bill, it states that the Airbnb occupant occupancy permit shall be for 1 year, but the inspections shall be every 3 years. And I'm appealing to, I don't know if Councilwoman Lipka's on the phone, on the Zoom. I see Councilwoman Robinette. And I'm just appealing to you all, can't we make this consistent with 1 year inspections, internal inspections? Because you cannot depend on landlords to do the right thing. You got people coming in and out of that property all year long, and we don't know what the inside looks like. I'm a landlord, and I want to be held accountable. So I'm just asking you all to please consider just making the occupancy permit annually, like you have it in the bill, but also the internal inspections as well. Thank you. And then on the bill 7304, sunshine request to waive fees for individual council members. So here, I'm putting my questions, my comments and questions. Number one, should our council representatives continue to follow the established protocol that allows our city manager to do his job when it comes to sunshine requests from the council? If the sunshine request is in the scope of the council's duties, can't they request this information from the city manager, who is an employee and who can provide the information to the council as an entity? Why would an individual council member submit a sunshine request? If a sunshine request is likely to contribute significantly to the public's understanding of operations and activities of the public governmental body, then wouldn't it make sense that the request would come from the council itself and not an individual member? If the council deems a sunshine request is in the scope of their duties and they agree to submit a request to the city manager, I think the fee should be waived. However, if a council member is acting on their own or just wanting information for other purposes, the fee should apply to them the same as it does everyone else. If the sunshine request comes from the city council and the city if it comes from the city council to and through the city manager, is there a record of such requests? If the council asks the city manager for some information, is there a record of such requests? And my last question, if that is the case, then the city clerk wouldn't need to submit a report every 3 months showing each request and who requested it. Thank you for listening and considering my comments and concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Kleins.
Being told that they can't hear me on the Zoom, so I'm just checking to see if my mic's on. Can you hear me on the Zoom now?
Much better. Thank you.
Sorry about that. All right, next public comments is Erica Brooks.
Good evening, Ms. Brooks.
Good evening. This is red. Is it supposed to be green?
Yeah,
It's supposed to be green because it's red right now.
it's supposed to be green.
It's red.
Push the little button. What a little finger is. Okay.
It's still red. Okay, good evening. As I approach this lecture, Councilperson Williams, I shouldn't even call you councilperson because you're a sad representation of a Black man and as a councilperson. He laughed. He wanted to start this laughing show, which is ridiculous. You are supposed to represent city council members. You're sad excuse for leadership, really are. And I saw that comment that you made on Facebook about, you know, it's been a laugh and joke about my comments. As a citizen, like I said, once again, if you represent Ferguson, you should have enough character as a man and as a leader to be more than what you represent. But I mean, I can't excuse what you've been taught as a young man. But anyway, I want to go back to bill number 7302. When I mentioned about having a background check, on the people that apply. And as the people were laughing, Michael Palmer and Nick Kassoff and Linda and Heather, when they were laughing about what I talked about last time, as far as getting a background check, there was news that was reported the next day about two teenagers that were sex trafficked from Ferguson. So while y'all grown people laughing, I'm asking you all, when it comes to this short-term rental situation and not knowing who's in our community, it's very serious. To understand that you can have a short-term rental, people pay you money, but not know who they are in this community. And people say they want to use it as for ceremonial situations or bed and breakfasts or whatever you want to call it, Airbnbs or whatever, possibly, because it doesn't mean that they're going to use it for that. But to know, and like Nick was saying, that it's 21 of them already in our community, and we have no clue that it's here. So to not know the process as to how those short-term rentals are in our neighborhood, and we don't know who are in our neighborhood, who could be possibly sex offenders, housing people in their homes, for a short term right down the street from us, and then they not go through the process of us as citizens hearing it, like when you do business license and liquor license, along where y'all vote on it to understand who the people are, to have a background check would be good. Also having a zone for just that particular thing to happen, which is short-term rental, so that we can know and understand where this stuff is located at. Yeah, it might be a profitable situation for the people that are up here that are realtors, but when it comes to safety, we don't know what's going on. Also, what is that? Like I say, I just think that you all should look very carefully into the whole thing of a background check, so we can at least know who the people are that are getting these Airbnbs, and also us as citizens know where these things are located, have a zone, a particular zone for that, so that we can know that is what's going on, and we'll know who's in our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, Miss Erica Brooks. Before you leave, I'm allowing this. Councilman Kassoff would like to ask you one
I had one
question.
quick thing I wasn't clear on. Are you talking about background checks for the owners or for the people who move in, the tenants?
Well, you know what, think about it, both of them are good, because I mean, when you all do liquor licenses, you all have them to come before
so
you all to do a
both.
presentation. Yeah, because I mean, this is business. This is not just, somebody getting a house and they buying it and they live in there. This is like you all said, they could use it for parties, celebrations, doing whatever, to know and understand who these people are in our neighborhoods.
I wasn't trying to drag you out. I just
I
wanted to
didn't
understand.
say you dragging their own, but I'm just giving you asked me a question.
But you want it on both.
I want it on both because like I said, when it comes to knowing if it's a celebration, if it's some housing or maybe some possible drug dealers or sex trafficking or just a regular person, like Mike was saying, as far as people, getting a job here and needing a short-term living arrangement, to understand what they're doing. Just like we had the daycare, she had to have a special permit for what was going on, and understand their business that they're doing.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Brooks.
That is everybody, public comment that is present. We do have one on Zoom, Michael Pierce.
Thank
Mr.
you. Good
Pierce?
evening. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to speak about Resolution 2025-07, the one regarding political sign placement on private property in the city of Ferguson. This resolution is blatantly unconstitutional, a violation of the First Amendment. To paraphrase what a council member recently wrote on social media, I may be one of 18,000 people in this community, but if necessary, I'll be the one of 18,000 citizens of Ferguson to file a lawsuit if this resolution is passed and adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Anyone else?
No, Mayor, that's everybody in public comment.
Okay. Thus, in public comments, we move to the manager's report. Manager Hampton.
Mayor and Council, it's a pleasure being here tonight in front of everyone and everyone here to attendance. I'll first call up Troy Doyle for his police report. Police Department report. Chief.
Mayor, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
All right, as usual, I'm gonna talk about the staffing updates, both part one and part two crimes, traffic, investigations, and community engagement. So as it relates to the staffing, again, we're at 88% staffing. As I mentioned at the last council meeting, we still have promotions coming up here, so we plan on promoting a sergeant here on the 28th of February. However, we need a total of 3 sergeants. I'm just not able to fill the other 2 at this moment. We also have 6 spots open for corporal's positions, which we won't do that until after the sergeant process has completed. We also have an opening for a lieutenant too. So right now we have a lieutenant that works 12-hour shifts on day watch, and we also need a lieutenant for nights to work the 6:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. shift. But again, that won't come into several months from now. Also this month, we NBQ'd 5 candidates. When I say NBQ'd, I mean not best qualified. And it broke down to 2 wasn't hired because of their prior work history. And 2 failed the background investigation, and 1 didn't get it hired because of a criminal record. Also wanted to announce the reassignment of Officer Scott Woodridge. He's been reassigned to the Detective Bureau. As you all recall, last year, the council approved for 2 additional positions in the Detective Bureau and 2 traffic unit positions, which I'll talk about here shortly. But also Woodridge is a veteran FPD officer. He left here at one time, went to St. Louis County, wanted to get back into the private sector, decided to get back in law enforcement. He had an opportunity to go to St. Louis County to come to Ferguson. He choose to want to come back here to Ferguson. He enjoyed the community and a small town atmosphere. So we're lucky to have Officer Woodridge on our staff, and he brings a ton of experience, and I think he's going to be very instrumental in our detective bureau. As it relates to part 1 crime, although it's early in the year, we're down 54%. A good thing. As part 2 crimes, we're down 39% for the year. 2-week traffic comparison. Sorry. As far as the traffic warning citations year to date, so we're down 17% so far for the year. Warnings slightly down from 19 to 15, and our citations decreased from 57 to 38. However, I do expect traffic enforcement to increase here. I'll explain that here shortly. Again, for the most part, the same numbers. Our failure yields, we're down 50% for the year, 9 compared to last year to 4 this time this year. As far as the traffic enforcement, I'm happy to announce that Officer Brooks has been assigned to our traffic unit. Officer Brooks come to us by way of Calverton Park Police Department, spent a number of years there. He was their primary traffic officer in Calverton Park. He's been with us for, I don't know, 7 months now, I can't remember. But he's been pretty productive as it relates to his traffic enforcement. He put in for the position through the interviews. He ended up getting a position. He's going to be very effective in our community as it relates to traffic enforcement. Officer Brooks, I mean, he started, his first day was Monday or yesterday, and second day was today, and he's just in those 2 days and written close to 15 to 20 tickets just in those 2 days. So he's going to be pretty effective. And to put that in perspective, in all of last month, As I mentioned, I think the PD wrote like 53 tickets and this guy's written almost 20 in 2 days. So it's gonna be very effective. He is going to, obviously, be in the school zones. He's gonna be in our high traffic or high, accident locations. More importantly, he's gonna be where our community and our citizens want him at, it's mainly where we get most of our citizens' complaints. So if you have a, particular street or something in your neighborhood where you believe that you need traffic enforcement, let us know. We make sure that, we get that street on our list. He would also, liaison with the traffic commission to get retrieve the, informational data from the, Jamar system to be able to be, that more productive in our community. As I mentioned, again, the last council meeting that we started the, Police Explorer program. We got pretty good media coverage on that. Everyone thought it was a great idea. We're starting to get numerous applications, in regards to that for our residents. I do have some, brochures up here. If you know any kids ages 14 to 20 years old and may have an interest in law enforcement. I didn't see you back there. Glover, Officer Glover is the one who got this thing up and going for us for the police department, so I'm gonna give him a hand. So we started to get a number of people that's interested in this program. So if you have any family members with kids in the neighborhood from ages 14 to 20 years of age, we're more than happy to have them join our Explorer program. That said, too, thanks to PIO Patricia and Officer Glover, the Explorers also came up with a new patch for them too. They represent the city. There's a little bit of the history in it as it relates to the training capacity of the council members. But again, it's just to distinguish our Explorers from other Explorers. A lot of police departments have them, but again, we're very proud of what we're able to accomplish with this particular program. We also sworn in Officer Brandon O'Brien in January. Officer Bryant came to us by way of the Bell Fountain Neighbors Police Department. He's been there for a year or so. He had strong interest to want to be part of the Ferguson Police Department, so he was sworn in back in January. We welcome him to our department. Last month, also received a in the mayor, was recognized by the YMCA Martin Luther King Jr. Strong Community Award. As it relates to Officer Brown update, if you recall last council meeting, I mentioned that I was going down to Atlanta, Georgia to visit him and his mom, which I did. Went to Shepherd's Rehab Center where Officer Brown is receiving his rehab. As I mentioned before, I'm somewhat reluctant to give like his medical history. I think that's only appropriate coming from his family, but I will say that he's making extremely great progress. I'm extremely proud of the progress that he has made since he was here in St. Louis. So he's doing good. So I'm extremely proud of that. While I was down there, I also met a gentleman, Michael Constanza, who wrote a book called Adversity Doesn't Build Character, It Reveals It. This young man was a police officer in South Carolina, who had a similar injury as Officer Brown. He attended this, I met him when I was down there, but he also attended the Shepherd's Rehab Center where he received some treatment too. And same injury that Officer Brown had, but he has made a full recovery. So that was encouraging to hear. It was a good testimony from him. So I'm extremely encouraged. Mom also wanted me to pass along her heartfelt thank you to the mayor, the council, the people in Ferguson for continuing to keep her son in her thoughts, and he's getting better. At this time, I entertain any questions anyone may have.
I'm getting ready to call you Officer Williams. Councilman Williams.
I think this Explorer program is great. I'm glad you guys are doing something with the youth. I know we've been talking about this, the Old Dare program. did not work
Mhm.
because it was politicized and the information was outdated. The new DARE program is called Keeping It Real.
Mhm.
And they've done blind test studies that it does work. And a lot of times that comes with funding. You know, they might give a police car and it's outfitted with the new DARE. So if you guys can look into that. So we are on the same page. The stuff in the nineties that I grew up with, the old DARE program does not work. It was politicized as a weapon. But the new DARE program is called Keeping It Real. However, it does work. And I just want to commend you guys for doing stuff with the young people because we have to start there.
Mhm.
Because they're going to be, if we don't get a hold of that, when they get older, those are going to be the people breaking in the cars, carjacking. But if we can send them in the right direction, that's a positive for the community.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Lipton, do you have anything? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councilwoman Noah.
Thank you, Mayor. Just right quick, Chief, I have a comment and a question. The comment is regarding the Explorers Program. If you didn't know, you may know this, PIO may know this, but FYI is having an event on the 28th, their slam, so it may be an opportunity for you all to outreach to the youth. And the question is Officer Brooks the only officer right now assigned to the traffic detail?
Yes, so if you recall, so remember last year budget deal that we approved for 2 positions for the detective bureau and 2 positions for the traffic unit. I'm happy about the staffing that we have right now. As I mentioned, we're able to have an overlay shift, which means that we have an additional 3 or 4 officers that come on from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. tonight, which give us more officers out on the street. However, I'm just not at this time want to reduce that until we hire a few more people. Once we hire a few more people, then I will add another traffic officer and then another detective. But right now, I want to enjoy the staffing where we're at right now. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Chief Doyle? City Manager.
I have nothing. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. The city manager update is closed. We move to special presentation. City Manager Hampton.
Yes, I have 3 presentations tonight. The first one will be from Rebecca, I'm gonna say his name on Penniman. And she is gonna be the most neighborly city award for the city of Ferguson. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name.
No, you did a great job. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor Jones, council
Good
people.
evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy to be here. My name is Rebecca Penniman. I am the Extension and Engagement Specialist and a Community Development Specialist for the University of Missouri. And I'm here to present you with an award. And I have to say that I've been sitting in the back with my husband watching people come in and shake hands and hug each other and say hello. And so I'm going to start with a statistic that I think will surprise Ferguson, and that is that in 2022, the University of Missouri did a state of neighboring study. And they went around to the state and they said, what makes a good neighbor? And the state of Missouri said, if they're quiet and they leave me alone. That's what makes the perfect neighbor. Just be quiet, leave me alone. That does not appear to be the case here in Ferguson. And we all know that those strong social bonds that come from neighboring, those things can improve individual health outcomes, increase civic engagement, create safer communities. We know that the opposite of what Missourians say makes a good neighbor is the thing that we all need, right? And the benefits seem almost intuitive. You know, if you shovel snow for this neighbor, then this neighbor will water your plants while you're out of town. And then if you get sick, everybody will bring you chicken soup, right? It's intuitive. It's common sense. We know that it will reduce our stress levels. It will make us feel better about where we live. It will improve all those health outcomes. It makes total sense. It's intuitive. But here's the thing that's not intuitive. The thing that's not intuitive is that Missouri townships with higher levels of neighboring and therefore higher levels of trust, because that's really what we're talking about, use fewer city services. And they are better positioned to launch economic development projects. So in 2022, University of Missouri conducted other research that observed that strong, trust-based networks were able to create more community festivals, community celebrations that brought in tourism dollars, saving local retail stores, attracting new businesses. So all of that trust, that good neighboring, that increases all of the metrics by which we judge what is a good community. All of the infrastructure, the civic involvement, the investment, the economic prowess, all of those things come from good neighboring. So Missouri Good Neighbor Week was signed into state law in 2021, and one goal of the week was to encourage neighbor-to-neighbor engagement and relationship building. As part of that week, the University of Missouri scores cities throughout the state based on number of residents reporting acts of neighboring, being nominated as engaged neighbors, signing proclamations, organizing activities, and holding events around neighboring. And 118 cities in 2024 scored points in those categories. 5 of them were chosen to be the most neighborly cities in the state of Missouri. And I am delighted to be here tonight to recognize Ferguson, Missouri as one of the 5 most neighborly cities in the state of Missouri. And I have to, the judges wanted me to read this special comment, so I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to present this to Mayor Jones and be on my merry way. Staff with the city of Ferguson learned about Missouri Good Neighbor Week and decided to fill the week with events, open houses, and block parties to build connections and trust. It was a strong first-time effort. Plus, we really love what it says about the level of mobilization of that community. There was an organized effort to increase engagement among neighbors citywide. And we also want to recognize Prashan Peoples, Community Development Administrative Assistant for the City of Ferguson, for her high level of involvement with Missouri Good Neighbor Week efforts. And I have to let you know that Prashan Peoples is going to get it done. She has run for and been elected to my University of Missouri Extension Council. So I get to work with her for the next 2 years, and I'm delighted about that. So keep your eye on Prashan. She's going places. So Mayor Jones and council people and everybody who lives in Ferguson, Missouri, you have one most neighborly city. There you are. Here we are. Take one this way. Sure. Thank you very much. Let's all take a picture. Great shot.
Can you get us on Zoom too?
Linda, we know that. Can you put, there you go. I was gonna say, can you put them on there? Cause I can get Heather.
Can you get it?
Okay, you ready?
Yay.
Tell me when to smile.
I can't do 2.
Okay, you can't do 2.
Okay, we can do
Give it to
2.
Linda.
Okay,
Whoever speaks last.
all right, I got it.
Okay, you got both of them? All right, Linda.
Congratulations, Ferguson.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mayor. Hello, can you guys hear me?
What's she saying?
Can you hear me?
I was just gonna say,
Say, Linda.
You gotta turn.
I was going to say, the lady's already stepped out, but Mayor, if you would have Pat stand behind you and you turn around and get all the neighbors in the audience in a picture, because this is a neighborly award.
Already done.
Already done.
All right, awesome. Sorry, I didn't know that and I apologize.
That's okay. It's already done. Okay, thank you, Rebecca. We appreciate. So, all right, thank you. Let's give a big hand. Okay. City manager, who's next on your
Yes,
list?
Mayor and Council, at this time we'll have Larry Robinette come up with the FNIP year-end report.
Good evening, Mayor Jones,
Good
council,
evening.
city staff. Here to give our readout for FNIP. This will be for the first half of our fiscal year. I wanted to start with just a recap of the programs that FNIP has out there so that folks can, refresh their memory. There are 5 functioning programs. 2 of those have low income options. The exterior improvement program is a 50% matching $1,500 maximum. There is a low income option on that, which waives the matching. The tree assistance program is a 75% matching with a $2,500 maximum. There is also a low income option for that waives the matching portion. The new home buyer program, that's our oldest program that's been around the longest. It's $2,500 in closing assistance to targeted groups that are moving into Ferguson. The sidewalk repair program, that's one that we picked up and started about a year ago. It's a 50% matching with a $2,500 maximum. And then the neighborhood organization grant, which has been around for quite a while as well. That is a $1,000 grant for qualified projects coming from neighborhood organizations and the like. The application sessions, I wanted to cover these. There'll be a flyer and some things to come in the future. We've got a little bit of runway here before we get there. There are quarterly application workshop sessions. Basically, anybody can come to the application workshop and get help with any application that they have. Neighborhood organization, new home buyer, exterior improvement, whatever it is. These are scheduled on Saturday mornings at the Ferguson Library from 9 to 10:30. There's one every quarter. And of course, we're not waiving our direct one-on-one help. We've always provided one-on-one help to dozens of residents in Ferguson to help with getting their applications filed and filled out. That will be available as long as I'm around, right? And I also wanted to note here that all blank applications and drop-offs will be moving to the Ferguson Library on the 15th of this month. That gives us until 8 p.m. every evening. The Ferguson Library has been partnering with us for the last year and a half. They will scan people's applications and email them to FNIP. They will copy things for free. They do a lot of stuff. We're going to put the Dropbox and the blank applications there in the library, mainly because of the accessibility hours that are going to be there. Just a recap. So what I did was I put together a recap. Again, I haven't done this in the past, but we're on year 3. So I wanted to recap by fiscal year where we were so you can see what's happened over the last couple of years. The 22-23 program, we received 168 applications. 142 of those were approved and 85 of them were paid, right? That's an important number to remember. The Good Neighbor Grant, we received 11 applications. We approved 8 of those and we paid 6 of them. And you'll see that some of this carries over to the next fiscal year, right? A lot of programs are approved in one fiscal year, paid in the next fiscal year, purely due to the time it takes for the people to execute getting the work done or close on a home. If you convert that application number into grant status, the EIM program paid out a little over $82,000. On that $82,000 payout, the homeowners invested $271,000 in their homes. So, that program coming into Ferguson brought a lot of improvement into homes. Some of that work obviously would have been done as a result of the homeowner wanting to do the work, but a lot of it was driven by the fact that they could get a large portion of it covered with the EIM grant. The EIM grant committed $126,000 for the programs. Many of them were never completed. The homeowners applied, were approved, never completed the work, timed out. There's a 6-month time limit to complete your work. They never completed the work. They never you can request an extension. They never requested an extension, and so it fell out. That was a big difference in the number there. The Good Neighbor Grant, we paid out $15,000 in Good Neighbor Grant programs. Again, that's the $2,500 program. However, there were 6 new homeowners that came with that program. That's the exciting part, right? Getting to meet them. Some of them have young children. Seeing what's moving into Ferguson under the program is really nice and continues to go on. You'll see for the next fiscal year too, right? So again, the same kind of summary. There were 151 applications. There were 142 that were approved. there were 9 that were either withdrawn or rejected. The EIM committed that was pending and ending in 6/2024 was 15 applications, right? So we just ended that year and some of those people requested extensions and there are still a few applications that could be paid out if they complete the work within their extension. The neighborhood improvement matching grant, that is for the neighborhood organizations. There were 2 applications approved, Chesky Park and Ferguson West neighbors. The Good Neighbor Grant, there was 1 approved, but you'll see when we get down and I'll jump straight down to that, actually the last line on the grant status. Even though we only approved 1 application in that fiscal year, we paid out $22,500 for 6 approved applicants. 5 of those came from the previous year as carryovers. That's what the difference is, right? The EIM program, there was 108, almost 119,000 paid out. Out of that, there was 367,000 of investment by the homeowners in Ferguson, with 118,000 of that coming from F&IP. The committed pending, there's a little bit of carryover still in this fiscal year because there were some grants that were able to carry through. This was actually $9,267. There's a high probability we won't pay much of that because their extensions are beginning to run out. So where do we stand currently, right? We're halfway through our fiscal year. So this is the first half of our current fiscal year. We've received 83 applications. If you assume we receive about that many the second half, we'll be on for the total 160 plus or minus, which is what we've seen close to in previous years. 79 of those were approved, 4 of them were withdrawn or rejected. We also kicked off in the fall of last year the Ferguson Tree Assistance Program, right? There have been 40 applications approved in that program. The Good Neighbor Grant, we had 1 approved application there, and we had our first sidewalk applicants come in. 3 of those applications were submitted and approved as well. Convert that into dollars. The EIM program paid out $125,000, a little more than $125,000. The total investment that came out of that was $412,000 and change, right? There's a committed pending of $22,500 still on the books to be paid. There's a high probability we will pay that out. And of course, this is through December 31st of 2024. We have received several already this year as well. The Ferguson Tree Assistance Program had paid out $61,000. There's $20,400 pending and $104,000 invested by the homeowners. Again, that ratio is a little lower because the Ferguson Tree Assistance Program is a 75% matching rather than a 50% matching program. The Good Neighbor Grant paid out 1 approved applicant, the $2,500. I'm happy to say that went to a Ferguson City employee. We were really pleased that she applied and is now a homeowner in Ferguson. The sidewalk program paid out $4,300. So given the concerns and some of the things that have come around F&IP, I wanted to pull together a summary status for everybody to see where we're at, given the questions around the ARPA. Right? So all totals, since we started with the programs in 2022 and the ARPA funds, we have received 402 applications, 363 of those were approved. The 40 tree applications, again, that started last fall. 15 total Good Neighbor Grant applications have been approved and paid, and 3 sidewalk applications have been approved and paid. The EIM program has paid out $326,000 and change. The total investment by homeowners was a little over $1 million on the 326. EIM has a committed pending, still yet to be paid out. That's a sum from the last 2 fiscal years of $31,794. The Ferguson Tree Assistance Program has paid out almost $50,000. They've got about $19,000 pending sitting there. And again, the $104,000 invested by the homeowner. The Good Neighbor Grant, the 15 new homeowners, that totaled $37,500 that was paid out. That is not an ARPA funded program. That is funded out of F&IP dollars that were there before ARPA. The sidewalk program, the 4347 that we paid out, there was a total of 8,712 invested by the homeowners as a part of that. So where does that leave us in the overall picture of things? The total ARPA status is we have spent almost $400,000, or it's committed. That's part of the 31,000 that's still on the books for commitment. And it's a $1.16 million investment by the homeowners. Again, we received $650,000 total for various programs from the city of ARPA funds. We're about $400,000 into that. As you all know, there's a timeline on the ARPA funds. But given the popularity of the programs, the fact that we just opened up the tree program to trees that were not fully dead, right? So we're going into the next phase of the tree program. Anybody can bring those in. In my mind, there'll be no problem with exhausting the additional 250,000 well before the timeline comes for the ARPA funds. This last slide, I should have moved up to the front. My apologies for you, but you all have a copy of it. So you looked at it. I went through acronyms or us basically, but this gives you an idea of everything acronym wise that we have. The next time I will get this ordered correctly and get that up front. With that, I would be happy to field any questions from y'all for FNIP.
Councilman David.
I think that was an excellent idea, having paper applications at the library and having people assist, because you know, everybody doesn't have a computer or scanner, or they might not be computer literate, and you guys can check that box. I think that's a great use of resources. And also, I've used the program a couple times, and the money I did get, I probably spent 5 times what I received. So it works. When you give people a little bit, they invest a lot more, which makes the community as whole beautiful, and everybody's property value goes up. So I think it's an excellent program, and I think you guys are managing it well. And the PDF was very informative.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other council member? Councilwoman Noor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Robinette, for the presentation. And you answered my question. I emailed you about the different,
Speak up, please.
I emailed you about the different events that you all were going to have, the
Yes.
application assistance. So thank you for that.
Probably
Regarding
notice
the,
I cut and pasted it out of there into your
yeah,
emails.
that's why I took a picture, but thank you for that.
Yeah.
Regarding the tree program, just for clarity, the tree program, is that open to landlords or only owner occupied homeowners?
Currently, that is only open to homeowners,
Okay.
owner-occupied homeowners. All of our programs are open to homeowners. And if you look at the mission statement for FNIP and the 30-year history of FNIP, that's kind of where they've targeted. We'd like to branch that out a little bit in FNIP. We'd like to be a resource for a bigger part of the community, given the number of rental properties that we have, but we've not done that yet.
Okay. And we can only apply once per physical year. Is that correct? For both the exterior and the tree program?
The tree program is a one-time until we've gone through everybody there because of the number of trees that people want to take down. The exterior improvement program, yes, that is an annual, you can apply each fiscal year. The Good Neighbor Grant program is only open one time when you buy a house in Ferguson. That's a one-time purchase. And we, unfortunately, they sign a note that, you know, gives them a 36-month forgivable loan is what that is. It's not a true grant. We had one homeowner that applied for it and then actually sold her house 3 months later and left and had to pay back a large portion of the 3,600. But they signed the promissory note going into it, and it's explained to them. They understand that's how it works. It's worked that way for 25 years that the program has been around.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
City
Mayor.
manager.
Mayor, I
Yeah,
have my hand up.
also-
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Councilwoman Lipka.
No, Chief Hampton, if you want to go, I can wait.
No, you can go.
Go ahead and go.
So just to clarify, Mr. Robinette, what is the actual fiscal calendar year?
That is July 1 to June 30. It's the same fiscal year that the city's on.
Okay, and then, I'm assuming that you had a PDF or you had a PowerPoint going just now. Is that correct?
Yes, I did, and it was sent up, but it's my understanding that because of an illness, it might not have gotten to you guys yet. I'm assuming it will. Yeah,
Okay, I was
you
just
should
gonna
have this
say,
PDF. Or
Should-
will have soon.
okay, so we will have it hopefully by tomorrow. And then, the last question I had for you, if a person put in for the tree program back when it first started, but hasn't heard anything, is that because maybe they didn't meet the requirements? Or, I mean, if a person doesn't hear anything, should they try again? Maybe it got lost in the mail. I don't know.
Yes, by all means, right? So there were a number of applications that came in before the tree program actually started. And to my knowledge, we reached out to every one of them and explained the situation, why the tree program hadn't started yet. The citywide survey was not completed until September, so we did not start until the following fall with that. Several of the people that applied and didn't, their application wasn't processed because the program wasn't running, did apply later and come back in and get their tree taken down.
So I know when you first started telling us about the tree program, there was a effort to try and go and evaluate all the trees at one time and coordinate them to have a better price with a one-time tree service going out and taking care of all those trees. Did that come to fruition, or did something else come in its place?
Yes, ma'am. There was a citywide survey done of all the trees in the city. All of the phase one, the completely dead trees, of which there were 210 or 12 or something like that. Every single one of those homeowners was emailed an application, was letter mailed an application and told that they qualified for the program because they had a dead tree that was identified by the arborist.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilwoman. City Manager.
Yeah, also, I'd like to point out that we have also worked, the city has also worked with FNIP. We have some trees that need a professional to take down and that we are not equipped to do safely. And so we have also utilized the ARPA money through that as well.
Great. Councilman Palmer.
Is it the intention of the board to continue with these programs once the ARPA funds have been extinguished? And if so, what's the plan to fund these initiatives going forward?
Yeah, so excellent question, right? We have employed, as you all know, this started out with me doing the applications as a volunteer. We now have an employee that's actually processing all of the applications and doing grant writing process for us. We fully intend to get back to where FNIP started its roots, which was pulling in money from programs like CDBG and things like that with the city. That'll require sitting down and having some information to talk about it. I can't imagine a better investment when you look at the paperwork here than what FNIP is doing for the community and the homeowners in Ferguson. I think getting back to when I moved here 21 years ago, I utilized FNIP to put central air conditioning into a 110-year-old home. And, it was a zero interest loan was the program they had at the time. We'd love to start some more programs like that up, but we require some funding to pull that together.
Okay. Anyone else for Larry Robinette? Hear none? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Good report. Give him a hand. Give him a hand. Okay.
Okay, and Mayor, I have one last presentation. It's the actuary report for the pension plan, Mr. Greg Stone. And also Nadrick may have some information as well.
I actually was just gonna introduce Mr. Stump and make a correction that this is actually fiscal year 24's actuarial report. And this Mr. Stump from Bloomshire?
So it's 2024, not 2025.
That's correct. It's actually 2024
Okay.
report.
I'll go over the years. Good evening, Mayor Jones, members of the council. Good to see you all again. I've been working with this plan and the city for probably 20 years. I think about 20 years now. So once a year, we look at the status of the plan. It's always July 1st, and we collect data on everyone who's an employee, everyone who's a former employee but hasn't started collecting a benefit yet, everybody who's receiving a benefit, and see what happened during the course of the year. So I'll start on this slide here. I think I have about I have 9 slides, and there's a full 20-page report. That's all this information in much more detail. I'm sparing you that and going over the shorter version today. But every year we look at these things and say, okay, you know, how did the investments affect the funding of the plan, salary increases, how long retirees are living, et cetera. And that's something we have assumptions on, but then once a year we look and see what actually happened. And so to the extent it's something worse or unfavorable, that's called an experience loss, and the other way is an experience gain. So this is what we look at, and these are the valuation results. So this right here, this probably has every number you would want to know from that full valuation report, and it's in 3 columns. The last 3 valuations, 2021, 2022, 2024. Now, there was not a valuation done in 2023. And the reason for that is we had extreme difficulty in getting reliable data on active employees. And so it got to a point where we said, we just can't do it. And that's okay. It's acceptable. It didn't, the city didn't have any unfavorable opinion from the auditors, because you are allowed to do it once every 2 years. I wouldn't recommend that. I think it's better to do it once every year, but that's the reason there's no 2023 column and no 2023 valuation results. But we look at what happened over the course of that time period, and the accrued liability, that's basically just how much assets do we want to have in that fund. It's going to increase over time, maybe not every single year, but that's going to increase. So there was a $3.6 million increase from 22 to 24. The assets increased 2 million, and the actuarial value of assets, which I'll explain in a few minutes, increased just a small amount. So that means that unfunded liability grew. That's just the difference between the top line and the third line. So now there's a 3.4 million or $2.6 million unfunded liability. Now, skipping that next part for a second, looking at the bottom part of the screen there, the funding ratio, it was 100%, and it was 103%, now 92%. So the bad news is that's the lowest funding ratio we've had here in the last 20 years. The good news is that's still a very, very good funding ratio. Many plans out there are struggling with numbers in the 60 to 70% range. So 92% is still very good. And that leads us to that light blue section there. So what happened with the required contribution? Well, there's a couple parts to it. 2 parts. Normal cost is just the cost of benefits being accrued. So everybody that's an active employee that's in the pension plan has a normal cost assigned to them. $5,000, $10,000, depends on how much service they have, their salary, et cetera. So that went from 429,000 2 years ago to 738,000. Pretty good size increase, and we'll talk about some of the reasons why in a minute. The total contribution is just the normal cost plus making up part of the difference between 100% and, in this case, 92%. So that's why you see in 2022, the total is actually less than the normal cost, because we were over 100% funded. So you get to reduce it a little. But anytime you're less than 100% funded, you have to increase that. It's called an amortization payment. So that's going to go on for a while, and we'll look at some of the reasons why that changed. So this is probably the most important slide I have for you here. And it shows, you know, from the last valuation to where we are now, how did the cost change? So there are light green bars, and it says ADEC. That stands for Actuarially Determined Employer Contribution. That's just the contribution requirement for the city. And so we started the last valuation under 400,000. And then there's all these factors that went into why did this increase, you know, so much in the last 2 years. Well, part of it's expected. That second, and I will explain each one of these. The second bar there is a little over 400,000 because the normal cost is a percentage of payroll. So as payroll increases, that's just going to kind of step up over time. So that's par for the course. Missed contributions. So during fiscal year 2023, there was zero contribution to the fund. So no money came from the city into the pension fund. pointed this out, tried to discuss it with the former finance director, and that didn't go anywhere. Fiscal 2024, there was a relatively small contribution, 33,000, when it should have been close to 500,000. So that, when you miss contributions, that increases the cost going forward. And I've, been working with Nigel Tankins for the past 6 months, 8 months, and he has everything lined up now. So that's not going to happen again. So that's the good news there. But yeah, the missed contributions did increase that requirement a little. The one factor that decreased it was investment performance. And that's just over the last couple of years, there have been gains. We expect 6.75% return every year. It's been higher than that the last couple of years. And in fact, we'll look at 5-year history in a minute here. There was a retiree COLA, 4% COLA for retirees. And that caused a little bit of a cost increase because you have to amortize that payment over 10 years. And then the last two are a little larger: salary experience and the 2% multiplier. So the salary experience is just salaries going up higher than expected. That's a good thing. The 2% multiplier, people are getting higher benefit than they had before. That's also a good thing. So the good news is people are making more and having a better benefit. And the bad news is it does cost more for that, but we discussed these things in the past. The 2% multiplier just means for every year of service you work in the city, you get 2% times your final average pay times that service. So if you work 25 years, you get 50%, half of your final average pay. It used to be 1.75%. That was the change. All right. So, and by the way, if you have a question, you do not have to wait until the end. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Councilman Williams.
Sorry.
That's a good return on the investment. Which brokerage house are you guys using?
It's not us. The city hires an investment consultant, and they do a presentation here at least once a year. Who is it? UMB.
Do you know if they're using Vanguard, Charles Schwab, or you have?
I don't know.
So they're doing a good job if it's almost 6%.
They have, yes.
Yeah.
I agree. Madam Mayor, if anybody has a question, feel free to call on them while I'm talking. It's fine. Thank you. So this slide, this is how asset smoothing works. I think it's worth an explanation because it's not something you think about or even looked at before. But every year we measure a gain or a loss in the investment return. If it's below the expected amount, it's a loss. It's below that zero line. If it's above that, it's a gain. So the 2020, it was a positive return. It was 3 or 4%, but it's still considered a loss because it's less than the expected amount. 2021 was a great year, $5 million gain, to the point we were just talking about here. That's $5 million more than we thought we were going to get. 2022 was a loss, 4 million. 2023, it looks blank, but there's a really small sliver there. It was $17,000 gain. 2024 was a gain again. So, 2 gains out of those years and 1 very small gain. And so the net total over those 5 years is about a $1.5 million gain. So $1.5 million earned more than expected. The orange bars is where the smoothing comes in. So for each one of these gains and losses, we recognize 1/5 of it at a time. So 2020, the loss hurts, but it only hurts, 1/5. And then you recognize that. And by the time you get 5 years later, it's completely gone. That's why there's no orange bar there. 2021, we recognize most of that, but it's going to help a little bit going forward. 2022 is going to hurt a little bit going forward because there's part of that loss to recognize. 2024 is going to help for 4 more years. So that's how the smoothing works. And the whole point of it, the reason that actuaries came up with this many decades ago, is to smooth the contribution. It's not really asset smoothing, but it's smoothing the contribution, because if we didn't do this, when you had 2021, you would drop the contribution to 0, and then 2022 would come around with this loss and you'd increase it, to millions of dollars. So it smooths it out. So you don't have huge changes year over year. I won't spend too much time on the rest of these, and I definitely would answer any questions you have, but this is kind of a snapshot of the members of the plan. And just looking at 2022 to 2024, the last couple of evaluations, it's a little misleading, and there's much more detail in the report, but you see 127 active, meaning active employees, and 127. it's not the same 127 people. A lot of changes in there. A lot of people left, a lot of people retired, new employees. So it just happens to be the same number. Receiving pensions, 103 to 104. It doesn't mean just one person retired. Some people died, and then you have some new retirees. Average benefit is going up, and a little more of an increase in the last 2 years because we had that 4% COLA. And the average annual pay is way up to 65,000, which is, again, that's a good thing, but that's part of the cost increase. So the future outlook is favorable. It's, the funding ratio is in the 90s now. It's expected to remain in the 90s indefinitely, gradually approaching 100%. That's how the funding works. When you were over 100%, it was designed to, gradually go down to 100. The investment losses we just talked about, and that graph with the blue and orange bars, the last one, if you could look at that closely, you'd see there's 850,000 in unrecognized gains. So that's good. Unrecognized gains is what you want, because that's going to help going forward. So when we project the contribution, say 1 year out, we will expect it to go down a little bit because we have some unrecognized gains. The contribution rates expected to remain relatively stable going forward, and expected is underlined because it's a moving target. That's why we look at all those things every year. You saw the volatility we had in 2021 and 22, but the expectation is that it will remain relatively stable and then gradually decrease to the cost of the benefits. And that's always true. The cost of the benefits is about 9% of payroll. So the 2% multiplier, that's what people are going to get. It's worth about 9% of payroll. So that's where we're going eventually. And again, everything is updated annually. So last slide here is just that, keep in mind the funding remains strong. 90%, 92%, 93% doesn't look as good as all the years of hundreds, but that's still very, very good. In fact, it's excellent compared to most public plans in the state of Missouri and all throughout the country. Costs are higher now that there's an unfunded liability. In fact, it was less than 100% for the first time in a long time. Now there's that additional cost. But again, the outlook changes every year, and we'll monitor the experience going forward. So with that, I'll answer other questions if there are any.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Councilman Williams?
So the company managing this fund, are they a fiduciary?
Yes.
Okay.
They are. And I don't know if Nadrick knows when they're coming in.
I will jump in and answer that question for you. It's actually UMB. They manage our pension for us.
Uncle Victor.
It's Larry Coster.
I believe it is.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and Vincent Rugg has some stuff.
Right. So I can get you the names if you want those names, but it is UMB. They come to the pension board meeting every quarter to present the valuation from their side. So the full $30 million or whatever it is that they have, they come and do a report on that quarterly at the pension board meeting. I just wanted to briefly address a couple things from Mr. Stump's presentation. One of those things was the 100% funding. We're down to 92%. We did make an additional payment this year to address that issue. And in our budget for this fiscal year, we have $750,000 set aside for pension. So between that and our additional payment, we will be back to almost 100% funded by the end of this fiscal year. I've been holding those funds off to make sure we get through end of year tax time, all that stuff before I make payments, but it has been allocated in the budget.
And yeah, and one of the additional funding, which we've all talked about, was from a settlement. And so we thought that it would be best put towards this.
Right.
And I did also, one of the CDs that came due, I kept those funds for pension in case we needed an additional amount to contribute. So I do have another $100,000 sitting around waiting to see if we need to put it in the pension or do we need to reinvest it back with UMB in a different portfolio. That's all I have. Did anyone have a question for me?
Councilwoman Lipka?
situated.
All right, sorry
Anyone
about that.
else has a question? She not ready with her
No,
question.
no, I'm done. I'm ready now. So my question is to our finance director. If I remember correctly, prior to your time with us, one of our past finance directors had said that sometimes you don't want to be 100% funded, that it's safer to be in a zone between the 90 and 100. Or is that still correct, or am I misunderstood? Or can you help me with that?
Without knowing the context of the conversation, I'm not sure how to answer that. My
Okay.
personal opinion, I would want to be 100% funded, especially since that's how the city set up the pension. Was the city would 100% fund the pension every year. The reason it wasn't was because the payments just didn't get made through oversight. So
Well,
we're
I
making
think,
up for that now.
well, I know it wasn't beneficial to be over 100%, correct?
I'm not sure I would say that either. As Mr. Stump said, our pension is actually doing great on investments. We're making money on the pension. So logically speaking, the more money we put in there, the more money we're gonna make.
Okay.
So I don't think putting
I
more money in it necessarily hurts us. It just means we can't use it for city business anymore because it's now
It's
pension
in
money.
pension.
That might be the case that I'm thinking of, because I mean, I've always believed exactly the way you believe, 100 more, that sounds great. I think there was some conversation, and I'm not as literate in this area as you are and some of the council members are, but I think there was some conversation of being overly funded could have a detrimental aspect to it. Not to say it is detrimental, but to be overly funded maybe made it unable for you, or overly invested and 100% funded. I'm not quite sure what the actual breakdown of that concept was, but simply to say that you had funds tied that couldn't be untied. I don't know. Does that make sense to any degree?
That is the correct way to look at it. Once we contribute money to pension, it's gone. It's pension money now. We're not getting it back.
Okay, that might,
So we definitely don't want to put money that we need there.
that's
If that
probably
makes
what it was, because in an attempt to 100% fund the pension, if you're putting funds into it to fund it 100% that you need other places, you can't get that money back. So it wasn't a bad thing. I think one of our presentations a couple years back, and may have even been Mr. Stump, one of the concepts was, it's not, you want to be 100% or more, but it's not a bad thing to be 90% and on your way to 100, because you're still funded enough to make your payments and so forth, but you haven't tied up funds that you can't untie. Correct?
That's correct. I can agree with that assessment.
Okay.
Personally, I
That's
still
as
would
far,
want to be 100%. And if we have a concern about tying up funds, we have other investment options. So UMB, they have a other investment portfolio that we contribute to. We have investments at Stifel Nicholas and other places, not Stifel Nicholas, some other place. We do have several investments. And if we wanted to save money, earn a return on investment, we can invest in those areas and not rely on the pension, even though we know the pension exceeds the market by a lot.
okay. Well, that's all I had. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lipka. Anyone else? If not, City Manager?
Mayor and Council, that's the end of my special presentations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Craig Stump. Thank you. Special presentation has ended. We move to our public hearing. We have none. Our consent agenda. We have City Council meeting minutes for regular meeting on 1/28/25. I'm requesting a motion in a second to approve the meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second, David Williams.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it. The minutes have been approved. We have one appointment tonight for the Ferguson Special Business District, Lucretia Blakely. Is there a motion on
So
the
moved,
floor?
Naquita Noah.
Where
Is
was
there a
the,
second?
where was the paperwork on that?
I haven't seen.
I emailed it out
When?
twice and it's in the Dropbox, about 30 days ago. So it's been emailed out. If you all didn't see it, I mean, and Councilman Cassoff, you responded to the email.
You talking about the one from a long time ago?
It wasn't, it was about 30 days ago.
Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't remember the name from a month ago, so, okay.
It is in the Dropbox. And I tell you, only put an application in the Dropbox after she has researched
Okay, I
the
found it,
taxes,
I found it.
the taxes. Okay. So it was moved by Councilwoman Noor to appoint Lucretius Blakely to the Ferguson Specials Business District. It was a second. Who seconded? I'll second it, okay? So we can move on. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it. She has been appointed to the Ferguson Special School, Business District. I'm talking about school. Requests, we don't have any requests. A proclamation, none. We move to resolutions. We have resolution number 2025-6. Without objection, we're introduced by Councilwoman Linda Lipka and Councilwoman Naquita Noor. Hear none, Attorney Ryan, could you please read the resolution?
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution selecting a contractor for the fireworks display at the 4th of July celebration, awarding the contract to said contractor, and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city.
City Manager Hampton.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, at this time I have Joseph up here. Our Parks Director can answer any questions that council has.
Thanks for coming, Joseph.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Does anyone have questions for Joseph about the fireworks? Okay. Thank you, Joseph.
You got a job.
I requested a motion and a second for approval.
So moved,
Second.
Linda Lipka.
Noah.
Assistant City Manager, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilman Palmer,
Aye.
Councilman Capron. Aye. Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
and Councilman Williams.
Aye.
Resolution number 2025-06 passes. We move to resolution number 2025-07. Councilwoman Noor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move to withdraw the resolution based upon the attorney's advisement. Attorney, would you speak to that?
Certainly, Councilwoman Noah. So in looking over the resolution, it's an admirable aim to make sure that elections are conducted in a way that people understand what's going on and are not confused. And the resolution sought to accomplish that aim. There were though concerns whether or not stating if you could only in a certain ward say that this ward, you could only put a ward sign for that specific ward in the boundaries. If someone wished to say, for as a resident of Ward 1, well, just because I'm a resident of Ward 1, I think you should elect so to be a council member in Ward 3. There was concerns that if prohibiting from doing that, while an admirable goal of making sure elections are clear, that you would prohibit their First Amendment rights to advocate for elected officials. Councilwoman Noah being sensitive to that right, asked us to advise, which is what we did.
Thank you. Councilwoman Noor put a motion on the floor to withdraw resolution number 2025-07. Is there a second?
Second, Linda Lipka.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Resolution number 2025-07 has been withdrawn. We move to bills requiring first reading. We don't have any. We move to bills requiring second reading. Bill number 7302.
The sponsors of 7302 would like to delay consideration of this bill until our next meeting.
Second, anybody?
Second, Linda Lip, oh, sorry, Heather, go ahead.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Bill number 7302 will be delayed. We move to bill number 7304. I request a motion and a second to read the bill a second time and place it upon its passage.
So moved.
Second, David Williams.
Attorney Ryan, could you please read bill number 7304?
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance amending certain sections within Article 1, Section 2 of Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Ferguson relating to compliance with the Missouri Sunshine Law.
City Manager?
Mayor and Council, we did have we had a special meeting on this, and I will refer to the people that are sponsoring the bill. I have nothing further.
Mayor, can I?
Councilwoman Noah?
We did have a special meeting, but we didn't get to this bill during the special meeting. So we did not hear the residents' concerns. So at this time, I mean, I'm not prepared to vote because that was the point of the special meeting. So thank you.
Okay. Councilman Kassoff?
So the one of our residents who's here this evening, and I'm sorry, I'm scrolling and trying to find the email. One of our residents this evening was at the special meeting, and while we didn't get to it, she emailed council an extensive set of questions about the Sunshine Bill 7304. I want to ask, first of all, because she reiterated she read those questions this evening in public comment. Did you receive my reply?
No.
Oh, because I answered all those questions. I sent a response with an answer to everything. If I may have leave to do so, and I'm sorry, I'm still trying to find that email. I want to just quickly go over that. Because Ms. Klein's had some very good questions about this bill. So could I take a couple of minutes?
Yes, we in the second reading, you can.
Thank you.
Can I engage you? Can I engage you? No, he has to read your questions and answer them, okay?
So, and I'm going to try to be brief because she had a lot of questions, but the city manager, you asked whether we should continue to request documents through the city manager. The city manager doesn't have an obligation to give us any particular document, even if the document is public. Now, we have a good city manager right now, but as you know, sometimes we get people who aren't great. And in the future, council members have a duty to protect the interests of the residents of the city. And part of that is that we have to have exercise a fiduciary duty. If we think there's something wrong with spending, we have to be able to access those records. And supposing we have a dishonest city manager who's in cahoots with a friend and they're stealing from the city, and we still have to go through the city manager, that city manager is not going to produce those documents, right? And that's not such a far-fetched thing, because we had in the not very distant past a contractor for the city, and I'm not going to name who it is because it's not relevant here, but we had a contractor who was billing the city double what our contract allowed. And he was a friend of a department head who was signing off on those invoices. Now, it so happened that we had a really good city manager at the time, and when somebody asked that city manager, hey, I want to see the invoices for that vendor, he produced them right then and there. But the city manager wasn't the one in cahoots with that contractor. So in order for us to be able to protect the residents of the city and make sure everything's above board, we have to be able to have access. Now, you asked about, well, you know, if it's a majority of the council, okay, but why should one member be able to do it? Legit question. Supposing we have a majority who is dishonest and we have one whistleblower, we gonna lock that whistleblower out? We're not in the worst case scenario right now, and I hope that we never will be there. But what I want to do is make sure that whoever is sitting in this chair 20 years from now, if we do have a bad situation like that, which we've seen in other municipalities around the area, I want to make sure that that one whistleblower on this council has the ability to access these records. Now, let's be clear. These are, you know, you asked why an individual council member would submit a sunshine request. I think I've gotten into that already, that, you know, we feel that there's something that's maybe questionable, or maybe we just want to understand, you know, for example, we spent a great deal of money on legal fees. I don't have a personal understanding of where that money goes. I'm sure it's all spent wisely and wonderfully and everything's perfect, but as somebody entrusted with the finances of this city, I'd like to have at least some understanding of that. And it shouldn't be, and it's public information. Any of you could walk into City Hall and put in a sunshine request and say, I want those billing records. The difference is, because they're public, they'd be redacted if there was anything in there that was, you know, attorney-client privilege, but the billing records are public and you could get them. But you might have a reason to get them. I have a responsibility to the people of this city, and that's why I might want to do it. And so, you know, the bill does restrict this to the council member has to affirm that he is making this request in the scope of their duties as a council member. Now, we're not going to get into judging that, but if we've got some, but remember that all sunshine requests are public, which is another good thing about doing it this way. If I ask Chief Hampton to give me some information, you'll never know about it. Because I can go into his office and ask him for something, and he can print out some pieces of paper, and there's no sunshineable record, and you never even know it happened, even if I do it by email, unless you sunshine all of his emails for the whole year. If I make a sunshine request through the ordinary way, through the sunshine portal, you can go to the sunshine portal and it shows the request, and you can actually look at those documents yourself at no cost. So whatever I see, you see, instead of it being him handing me some papers. So what I'm trying to do with this bill is provide as much transparency as possible and enable everybody who sits up here to do their fiduciary duty as a member of this council today and in the future. So, and I'll send you that email again, but let me. But that basically answers the questions, and I'll send that to you again. I don't know why you didn't get it. That's all I have.
Any other council person would like to speak?
I would.
Councilwoman Robinette?
I believe Ms. Klein's asked about if someone was just doing it for their personal, you know, their own personal deal or whatever. Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. There is something in there that you would pay the required fees. It would be a normal sunshine request, that you would pay those fees. It's only what's for the greater good that would be part of the waived fees. Is that correct?
No, her volume is low.
We didn't understand a word you said, Heather. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me try to turn this up. Um. Can you hear me now? Nope.
Tell you what you said? Huh? I can tell you what you said. I can hear it.
She's
Okay.
frozen up.
Yeah, she froze now.
Okay. All right.
I believe I heard you correctly. It's okay. She was saying that in the bill, you specified that if the councilman was requesting something that was actually for personal use and not for council business as a whole, they would still have to pay the fee
Yes.
associated
Yeah.
with that request.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, any other comments? I can't take you from the floor. Okay. It has been properly moved and second. Assistant City Manager, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Cassoff,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
No.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilman Williams,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
No.
and Councilman Palmer.
Aye.
Bill number 7304 passes 5-2. We move to unfinished business.
Mayor. I have-
Councilwoman Noah.
Thank you. Just right quick, I have unfinished business regarding 829 South Florissant, Easy Drive. That was approved, the special use permit was approved, I think, last March. And still the lot sits kind of vacant with about 3 or 4 cars. And, residents are just concerned, what's going on. Are cars being, because the lot looks nothing like the renderings that were approved. And so there is a major concern about the lot, city manager. And 1022 South Florissant. These are not just my personal concerns. I'm not picking on anyone. We are trying to revitalize the Ferguson Special Business Board. There are inquiries from business owners. What is going on there? I know we've had this conversation in the past. We had a meeting and you stated that you all were working on it. So, I know that you're working on a lot of things. I just don't know if that area is a salvage yard, if it's a junkyard. Those box trucks have been there. Gosh, I moved back to Ferguson in 2017. It's just a concern. And I know that you all are working.
Yeah.
I appreciate staff's efforts. It's just that we are just trying to encourage.
We do have DNR working on that area. And also with the vehicles, I mean, we had one at House 2, the Firehouse 2, that was a can. And that was there for 10 years, and it just takes a little bit of time to get some of those vehicles moved. And then with the car lot, we are working on that with the occupant or the business person right now currently. Rachel and them are having conversations.
Thank you. What's DNR? Did you say
Yeah,
DNR?
Division of Natural Resources.
Division of Natural, okay,
Yeah,
thank
'cause
you.
if you drive back on the other court, you can see where some of the barrels, which we don't know where are in the barrels by the creek. And so that's why we have the DNR.
Any other unfinished business? Councilman Cassoff.
Yeah, since Councilor Noah brought up car lots, there is a piece of unfinished business that's been gnawing at me for a while. This body passed legislation, I believe about 6 months ago, requiring that car lots park their cars according to certain specifications, that you couldn't, this car lot only has a few cars on it. There's another car lot in Ferguson where they're parked shoulder to shoulder. A lot of them are inoperative. They're not parked in proper parking spaces. They drive out onto Chambers right across the grass because there's no way to pull them out through the parking lot. And we addressed this as a council some time ago, passed legislation specifically requiring what car lots almost everywhere else do, that they be parked, that those cars be parked properly and safely in parking spaces. There's been no compliance at this particular business to this date. I'm surprised that Councilor Noah didn't notice that. And the last time I checked OpenGov, they hadn't been issued any kind of a citation or a warning or anything on that. So I am concerned about that.
Yeah, no, I can answer.
Go ahead, but the car lot you're talking about is in Ward 1. Go ahead.
Yes, we're talking on across from 800 Chambers, I believe, correct? We did have a conversation with them about moving the cars during the day and then putting the cars back at night. I have not witnessed if they're moving the cars during the day or not. That's my staff's job to do, and I will get that answer. However, I do know they are in the court system, and we are gonna let that play out.
So they are in court?
Yes.
Because there was nothing on
So,
OpenGov.
yeah, it may not be an OpenGov, but it is in the court system, and I can get you some dates.
Okay, well, if they're in court, that's rock and roll. I mean, that's.
Yep.
It's just normally they hit OpenGov and then if it doesn't.
Yeah,
get
sometimes
resolved,
OpenGov doesn't get updated. Right now, I believe we have somebody that is injured, and we're gonna have them update a bunch of OpenGov
Okay,
things.
thank you, sir.
No problem.
Any other unfinished business?
Is there any way to?
Councilman? Then Councilwoman Lipka.
Councilwoman Noah, you said you were speaking on behalf of the Ferguson Business District with concerns about those two properties. Is that correct?
What I said was that, just to paraphrase, as the council liaison for FSBD, we are working together to try to see how we can work with the city to uplift that area. So to make a long story short, it has been brought up in meetings. You know, I know I've only attended about 4 or 5 FSBD meetings so far because there's been an issue with the quorum and we are working to fix that. As you all can see, you know, we appointed someone tonight, but there has been questions, just like with the laundry basket. You know, what's going on with these businesses? So, as the FSBD council person, yeah, I'll accept that responsibility.
Were there questions about the former bowling alley?
Not yet, but we can definitely raise that. We can definitely raise that question, but that's no problem. Is that something that you would like for me to do?
Were there questions about the former for automatic car wash at 1000 South Florissant Road?
The automatic car wash, the one that you own next to.
The
Easy
automatic
Drive?
that's next to the event space that used to be a Crown car wash you'd pull through. It's currently boarded up.
Well, you know what, Councilman Palmer?
Was there a question about that?
You can always come to a meeting and help us.
Answer
I
the
mean, we're
question.
here because you do own properties on South Florissant. You can always come and support.
Was there a question about the Chinese restaurant that has an RV in the back with someone living in it right now?
I think you should direct those questions to the city manager.
How about the vacant building behind that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
How about you serving the ward that you live in?
Ms. Kleins. Councilwoman Lipka.
No, I was just gonna ask, this has nothing to do with what just happened, but on the Zoom, we can't see you any longer. I don't know if it's anybody else on the Zoom, but I only see the logo for the city of Ferguson. Didn't know if there's a way to fix that. Thank you. You just did.
There's other people still on Zoom. Any other unfinished business? Here none, we close unfinished business. We move to new business. Councilwoman Noah.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, regarding 817 Maurice. The house was in a fire about 2 years ago. If you recall, you can see the back of the home if you're standing on Elkin. So again, this is not personal. This is what the meeting is for, right? The house was in a fire. You can see partially through the home if you're standing on Elkin. Is there an opportunity for this home to qualify for an emergency demo?
So it is, I know it's being brought up for the next hearing.
Okay.
And I know they're getting the houses together right now. We did drive some other neighborhoods today to verify some of these houses that are on the list are ones deemed for demo.
Thank you.
Any other new business, Councilman Williams?
So I got custody of my son. He's been here for about a month. And it was hell getting him enrolled in school. I think we need to have a liaison that works with the school. So Parks and Recs, our summer camp is full to the brim every year. But probably 50% of those kids don't even live in Ferguson. So we have a better coordination with the schools. You know, we can have some of these summer camps at the school. And so some of my dilemma with the registration process, so 200 Church Street is where you register. And I had my court documents stating that I had custody of my son. I'm not on his birth certificate, but I filed for that. The lady said, these documents are altered. I can't accept them. I said, no, they're legit. I called my lawyer on the spot. She didn't care. These documents are altered. We're not going to accept them. I said, ma'am, these documents are legitimate. You can go on the Peachtree court system and see that this is legitimate. It wasn't until I handed her my counsel card and she was like, she made a copy of that. Then I started thinking, if I'm going through that, other people might be going through that. But we do not have a good relationship with the school system to see what's going on. If you look at your tax bills, about 70% of that or higher goes to the school system. But there's no communication with city government and the schools. And the lady who did that, her name was DeCharo. So the superintendent, I think his name is Mitchell, was supposed to call me back, has not called me back, but she should be fired. So if she did me like that, I couldn't imagine how many people that had that process of trying to enroll their kids. It's just simply unnecessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Williams. Councilwoman Lipka, do we still have 2+2?
Not that I know of. I think that, you know, back when I got on council with, I was working on that, and then Tony came on board to the council and she wanted to do it. And then I kind of got pushed out of that. And so she was supposed to do it. I don't know if she ever did. She's gone now and it's never started back up. I do
okay,
know
thank you.
Octavia, I do know Octavia makes a point to let us all know when the meetings, the monthly school district meetings are.
Right.
So, you know, that's, and then Jane Crawford right now is the interim school superintendent. So I have spoke with her in regards to some issues, but, and I actually just spoke with her last week. So, we do have some communication and I'm happy to do whatever I can in the time I've got left because I do have a good relationship with Jane Crawford. So whatever you want, I can at least set groundwork for somebody to take the next step into once I'm gone.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Lipka. City Manager?
Yeah, I also have a pretty good relationship with a couple of school people as well. I can reach out and maybe we can do something together.
Okay.
I'm gonna go.
Any other new business? New business is closed. We move to miscellaneous. Councilwoman Noah.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to, let me start off because I have quite a bit to say. Councilman Palmer, you stated the bowling alley, the car wash, and what was the other location? So that I can write these down.
Chinese
What was
restaurant.
the third one?
New Chinese Gourmet,
New Chinese Gourmet,
the building behind there owned by one named Dale Crawford, I believe.
the building behind there. Okay.
You could throw in there 975 South Florissant while you're at it. It's full of mold. Remember whenever I said I passed that legislation and amended the bill for the special use to have air quality testing?
I remember.
Guess what? That daycare never opened. Wonder
Okay.
why.
Okay. Is anything else?
Yeah, just do a stroll, 34 North Florissant Road.
Okay. Well, well, I'm just going to stay, in my lane, but I just want to make it clear that the 1022 South Florissant and the Drive 8 Easy 829 South Florissant, I mean, it looks nothing like the renderings. So we just want to encourage that. And 1022 South Florissant, again, I don't know what's going on. That city manager has explained. I appreciate that. With the other businesses, I will bring these to the board as new business because again, we're in the position to try to encourage and build FSBD. Just like public storage, if you want to talk about on West Florissant, this is not personal. As a council rep in Ward 3, I hear from residents, how come Ward 3 looks the way that it looks? It's nothing against this. I know this administration, you all are working, but people have concerns, they have questions. Just like with the resolution that I introduced, I would never want to infringe on anyone's First Amendment right. But residents they're concerned, they're confused, who's running where, who's going to be on my ballot. So that was the reasoning why, as the attorney explained, I withdrew the bill for that purpose because I would never want to disrespect anyone. Okay, going to the new business. Not the new business, the miscellaneous. I would like to remind you all that every third Saturday, North Hills meets via Zoom. The information is on the website at fergusoncity.com. Nesbitt Nude meeting will be February 26th at 6 p.m. at the Ferguson Empowerment Center. I would like to thank you, True Vine Missionary Church, for allowing Southwest to have their meeting there. I did thank the city manager and the assistant city manager for showing up to answer the residents' questions. Their staff Public Works is back out trimming those trees. Thank you so much. We appreciate what you all are doing for the best of the city. My next miscellaneous is regarding the meeting, the special meeting on February 6th. You all, I just, I was just truly disappointed. The discussion followed regarding I'm sorry, that's not it. I apologize. One moment. Let me get to it. My laptop is going. My apologies. Here I am. I know time is a ticking. Here it is. Sorry for the delay. During the meeting on February 6th, the special meeting, the council and mayor listened to the residents' concerns regarding Bill 7302, short-term rentals. The meeting was set up so that residents could have the dialogue with the council, right? So residents could voice their concerns. I was very disappointed and embarrassed by the majority of council members who laughed at a resident as she explained her concerns regarding the bill. I denounce such behavior. As elected officials, we should not be comfortable with mocking our residents. The decisions that we make on this council affect our residents and their concerns should be taken seriously. All residents, not just some residents. It's unfortunate that the gang up bully tactics are encouraged by the majority. Such behavior would not be allowed in your career. At work, in your job, such behavior would not be allowed, and it should not be allowed as we are elected officials. Ferguson City Council, we must do better. We must be the change that we want to see. I did get to attend the status hearing for a little while. It was a longer status hearing, and great progress has been made by this city. FPD, I want to send a shout out to PIO Patricia Washington. I just can appreciate her presentation skills, and I am looking forward to the dashboard so we can all learn, what's going on. I understand that you all share that information, but it's read fast and, but thank you to all staff. Continue the progress. It's not unnoticed. And thank you, residents. Thank you, Mayor Jones, for the time.
Thank you, Councilwoman Knowles. Thank you. Miscellaneous, Councilman Palmer,
Nothing for me tonight.
Councilman Casal.
Yes. So, as you know, sunshine and transparency are a big subject for me. And in Fort Collins, Colorado, they have a system where a resident can register, or you don't even have to be a resident. You can register on this system and you can literally read the emails of council members, except for if it's marked confidential, because some of the stuff we do is confidential. But generally speaking, you can just log in and read the email. I wish we had that here. First of all, because I think you guys should have a right to see what's going on without spending a bunch of money on sunshine requests, but also because you would see the dynamics of this council and the way that Councilor Noah fails to participate. She criticizes the majority on this council, but let me tell you, when I propose a bill to this council, I give it to them well in advance and I ask for comments. Councilor Noah never responds, never comments, and usually votes no on what I propose. On the other hand, she puts in a bill at the last minute. I responded to that bill and I said, Councilor Noah, it's unconstitutional. I spoke with the legal director of the ACLU about the bill that Councilor Noah put in. A content-based restriction on individual speech is presumed unconstitutional and must pass strict scrutiny, is the term that it's called. In other words, the city has to prove, first of all, that there was a compelling government interest, and second of all, that the law that you passed was as narrow as possible to achieve that interest. Those are the requirements when you have content-based speech regulation by the government. And this bill very clearly failed on both aspects of that. If I live on one side of Elizabeth or the other, I might be in a different ward. And it's not a problem for anybody to have a sign on this side of Elizabeth that's for the ward on that side of Elizabeth. And really, in all honesty, if you live on Castro Drive and you have a favorite candidate in Ward 1 and you want to represent, that's your right. You have freedom of speech in America. That's why the Constitution has that restriction. And that's why I brought that up in our emails with Councilor Noah before we ever had this bill on the agenda. She ignored it. She didn't respond to what I said, and she just pressed on forward. That's the lack of teamwork and cooperation that we have on this council with certain people.
Teamwork wins.
And it is troubling.
Teamwork.
We do need to do better as a council, and that starts with everybody engaging and participating in discussions with their colleagues so that we can come out here and have our act together before we step out on this dais. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Kassoff. Councilwoman Robinette?
Yes, I'd like to address, Councilwoman Noah, you said that behavior would not be allowed in our careers.
Can't hear. I really can't hear you.
I'm sorry, let's see.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to address Councilwoman Noah's concerns about that behavior wouldn't be allowed in our careers. If someone in a meeting that I was in my career went off on a xenophobic rant for 10 minutes, my reaction would be warranted. I do not apologize for my reaction. My reaction was horror and shock that this was being said about people coming into our community. So this was not someone voicing a concern over a collective concern of the community. This was someone vilifying large swaths of people and, just countries, etc. So I do not apologize for my reaction to the February 6th meeting. I really wish we had limited the speech, the hate speech that was spoken. That's what I really wish that we would have done. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Robinette. Councilwoman Lipka.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I also want to address those comments by Councilwoman Noah, and I wasn't laughing out of humor. I was laughing out of uncomfort. I was extremely uncomfortable with what we were sitting through, hearing the singling out of different ethnic groups and different groups of people, and I was just flabbergasted.
Excuse me, Councilwoman Lipka. Miss Brooks, would you please give, Miss Brooks,
She's lying.
Miss Brooks, please let the councilwoman get finished.
Saying the people I didn't. So she didn't get the person right who did, I didn't do that.
Miss Brooks, please, Councilwoman Lipka.
Okay, so I was very flabbergasted. I was completely taken aback. That was my response, and it was an unprovoked response. It was something that just happened. I will say too that the requirement to know what's going on in somebody's home or what's in somebody's business, denying the freedoms of privacy to our citizens because you just want to know what other people are up to. That to me was just so flabbergasting. And this behavior would not be allowed in a workplace because these comments were phobia rants. Now, I'm sorry that I offended you. And when I kept trying to dig down deeper into what those comments were really motivated by, I realized it was motivated by fear. And so that I can address, fear, I can say, all right, you're afraid of this. So let's figure out a way to alleviate that fear. But denying rights of privacy, denying basic rights of freedom, denying the thing that completely builds our country, which is a diversity of ethnic groups, and denying any ethnic group the rights you have or I have or anyone else has, was just flabbergasting to me. So yeah, that's where I was coming from personally. And I'm sorry you feel the way you do, Councilwoman Noah, but there's been a lot of areas that I feel kind of, like even tonight, when your own council person who sits in Ward 3 with you is asking you questions, instead of answering him, like having the dialogue that you demand from all of us, you shut him down. You gaslighted him and telling him, "Oh, just go somewhere else and ask that question. Go somewhere else and ask that question." So and then there's people saying, well, he doesn't work in Ward 3. Yeah, he does. Those questions are based on a council person who is representing a ward that wants to have answers to those questions. So fighting your own counterpart is not really conducive. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the month. Happy Valentine's.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lipka. Councilman Williams.
Yeah, so the reason I came to St. Louis, I had a kid in grad school. I was supposed to go to Emory Law, but I needed money to take care of my son. So you do have a First Amendment right to petition your government. Like when you sign a contract, you have to be 18 years old and of sound mind and body. So when we have residents come up and speak, if they are not of sound mind, why are we giving them the opportunity to speak? It's ridiculous. That's like you're in a crowded theater and you yell fire. That does not protect your First Amendment speech. Go ahead and get the gavel ready. And as my friend Will Smith said, Erica Brooks, keep your name out of my mouth. Good night.
Miss Brooks and Councilman Williams. Miss Brooks.
Yeah, I'm sure that bootleg.
Miss Brooks.
Yeah, I need some tissue so I can wipe his nose.
Miss Brooks.
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Well, check him.
Please.
He's out of line.
Please, Miss Brooks.
Yeah.
City manager,
Yeah, Mayor, Council, hey, just want to remind everyone, there is gonna be some snow coming in, some sleet and all that. Please, if you can, park off the street, especially in the snow routes. We will be, working with police to make sure that those cars are removed. We'll ask you once and then we'll have to get it towed if necessary. Also, I know we are working on getting a traffic division, and I know Chief's long-term plans. This all goes towards our traffic calming. And I have to applaud Chief for all the efforts he's doing. That's all I have, Mayor.
okay, thank you. Attorney Ryan,
No business, owner.
Assistant City Manager.
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
The status hearing was great. We are moving forward. Judge Perry was satisfied. Just want to commend Patricia Washington for stepping into the role of consent decree coordinator. The judge was very, very pleased with that report. That's all I have to add. Right now, requesting a motion in a second to go into closed session.
So moved.
Pursued in 610.2.021 subsection 1 for legal.
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
We are now in closed session.
We have to vote.
Okay. Which,
Roll call, you just want to do?
yeah, let's do a roll call.
Councilman Williams.
Here.
Guido.
Aye.
Palmer.
Aye.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Robinette.
Respect on my
Aye.
name.
And then Lipka.
Aye.
Larry, you can't say that from the dais.
Councilman Robinette and Lipka, we're gonna switch Zooms. Give me about 5 minutes though.
Okay,
Thank you.
Any